Wouter Jansen, by some metrics the greatest GoldenEye speedrunner of all time, set 172 Untied World Records between 1999 and 2005. Precisely 0 of those 172 records still stand today, in the wake of Karl Jobst achieving Frigate Agent 22 seconds. So how exactly does someone go from having set 172 Untied World Records in a speed game to having every single one of them defeated? You'd think that at least one of his records would have been maxed, unbeatable, and for a long time we thought as much. But speedruns, like nearly anything in this world, cannot escape the decay of time, new innovations, discoveries, and the ultimate destiny of obsolescence. In this video, I wanted to look at some of the final Untied World Records set by Wouter Jansen, how they were conquered, and what ultimately led to 0 of the game's 60 currently standing world records having been set by Wouter. And first we have to go back to some point in the past that seems appropriate to begin this tale, and 2004 seems about right. You see, of those 172 Untied World Records set by Wouter, 166 of them were set between 1999 and 2003. It makes sense that one way to get hundreds of Untied World Records is to take advantage of the unoptimized landscape of a game's early days, and this is why the early legends of a game will almost always have set more records or cut more time from a game than those who come later. 2003 also happens to be when Wouter's biggest rival and contemporary, Brian Bosshart, began to catch up and pass him on the rankings and in current world record count, with many of Wouter's records being tied or beaten by Boss. But Wouter didn't want to just get passed like a sitting duck. In January 2004, Wouter achieved Cradle Secret Agent 36, a pretty good record and really the first optimized or clean run on Cradle, which used farming a grenade from a guard and using this to game-end Trevelyan. 38s and 37s had been the record using this strategy in the past, but these often had visible errors, or time spent waiting around for guards to pull grenades. 36 was actually really good and would remain untied for nearly 2 years until Boss matched it on Secret Agent, while also untying Agent and Double Agent in December 2005 when he went on a bit of a Cradle spree. Wouter's mark would finally go down in 2008 when David Clemens madly put up a time of 35 seconds, still the best ever time achieved with the strategy he used, and 35 would remain a Clemens and Ace tied record for the better part of a decade, until a variety of new strategies brought the level all the way down to 33 seconds. Wouter set a few other tied records throughout 2004, but these were mostly just trying to keep pace with Boss's torrential rate of untied records, matching some of Boss's records like Dam 53 or Surface 1 103. Wouter's true last stand would really be a remarkable set of untied records he achieved in mid-2005, beginning with Depot Secret Agent 43 seconds. Wouter, a notorious user of the 1.1 control style, had finally learned the 1.2 control style, a slightly more optimal control layout as it uses the C buttons to move instead of using the analog stick, so you're always going full speed even when turning. And he used his new talents to lower the previous record of 44 seconds. He then turned to Double Agent and got possibly one of the most underappreciated records of his career. You see, Wouter had previously untied Depot Double Agent 51 in November 2002, and by June 2005 it was still untied. Wouter then lowered his own untied to 50 seconds for no reason other than just wanting to be an optimized speedrun beast. Boss would ultimately tie Secret Agent 43 in 2006 and Double Agent 50 in 2007, after Wouter sat alone atop the level for more than 4 years solid. And both of these records would stand, although tied, until 2010, when another control style discovery would take place. that being the use of the 2.x control styles, whose actions are active in the opening cutscene, and were particularly useful on Depot because you could shoot this screen during the opening cutscene and lure guards to open this large rolling door, saving 3 seconds in-game time for free. Yeah, it was a bit awkward at first to learn how to play with 2 controllers at the same time, but once players got used to it, improvements to these 2 records were inevitable. And it is really possible that Depot 00 Agent 50 might still be the world record had the whole 2 controller thing never been found. Back in June 2005, Wouter achieved another Untied World Record which many thought would last forever. Streets Agent 113, a picture-perfect 8-boost run, improving the mark of 114 that was set in 2002, and only made possible with the discovery that looking down generated less lag and saved about 1 second game time per minute played. Wouter's 113 combined for the first time looking down with optimal guard boosts and the somewhat rare grenade launcher spawn, a clean pickup, and great strafe lines. It remained untied until March 2007 when I was the one who first tied it. Streets had always been one of my best levels, and over the next few years I would often talk about how 112 was possible, while the rest of the community thought 113 was maxed. I eventually got 113s with no grenade launcher at all, and some 113.0s before others finally warmed up to the idea that 112 was indeed possible. But it still wouldn't be until August 2012 when Mark Rutsu achieved the first Streets 112, partly thanks to saving 0.3 seconds at the start from using control style 2.x, but also through just, being Mark Rutsu and playing perfectly. Wouter's 113 stood for 7 years, but had finally been knocked off as a world record, and I think you guys know most of the rest of the story from here.
Dude, what a rush!
So there's 4 of Wouter's final 6 untied world records, the last 2 taking place in fall 2005 on Frigate. We'll start with 00 Agent set in October. You see, Frigate 00 Agent is an incredibly complex level, requiring you to save 5 hostages, defuse 2 bombs, plant a tracking bug on a helicopter, and escape the boat. It's the least linear of any level, and there are a countless number of routes through the boat and objectives. Interestingly though, many of them resulting in similar end times. 114 had stood as the record since 2001, originally set by Wouter, and later being matched by Boss, Alex Bass Boost Anderson, and Dan Cervone over the years, before Cervone got a 113 using a completely different route as Wouter's 114. A route that seemingly had better odds for the 5 hostages to actually reach their escape points and complete the objectives. Wouter used this new route to retake the Untied with a 112 on October 27, 2005, but this would only last about a month until improved to 111 by Alex Anderson, and the world record route through Frigate 00 Agent has generally remained the same ever since. So that brings us all the way back to Frigate Agent. The record, 24 seconds, set in 2002 by Wouter himself, tied in 2003 by Boss, and 2005 by Alex Anderson. A common thread throughout Wouter's career at this point was that he wanted to optimize every time as best as he could, even if it meant getting passed by other players due to him focusing so hard on a single level when he could easily make up a few points by improving some of his worst times more quickly. He had a saying, "We'll see who's first by the end of our lives," implying that his slow but steady method, being sure to optimize each level before moving on, would ultimately prevail, while others would scramble around for unoptimized but high-scoring points on levels with new strategies, or jumping on the bandwagon of the level du jour. By this logic, he wanted to optimize Frigate Agent for good, even though 24 was already a really solid and uncommon record. The thing with Frigate Agent is you have to release 2 hostages, throw your tracking bug, run back to the boat, and just hope the hostages have escaped in time. Usually they haven't, and you fail the mission. The hostages each have 6 points of escape they can choose from, and only one of these 6 is close enough for the hostages to make it in 23 seconds. So you'd think the odds would be roughly 1 in 36 to complete a Frigate 23, right? Not quite, because the hostage only starts running when the guard's body is completely faded out, so a slow death animation can ruin the run. Hostages can get stuck on chairs, or other guards running around, and any number of random factors can cause a further delay to their escape, making the odds of Frigate 23 hostages much, much worse. Wouter played the level for 150 hours, a massive amount of time in that era, before he finally posted a thread on September 24, 2005, titled, "Beautiful Girl Inside." Pretty good clickbait for back then. But what was inside was even far more remarkable. Wouter revealed he had achieved Frigate Agent 23, and the run was widely celebrated as the most insane thing to ever happen in GoldenEye to that point. To persevere through hours and hours of banging your head against the wall to get the one lucky run with the hostages completing, to finally achieve a fully optimized speedrun, was something all speedrunners could admire as a momentous accomplishment. But it wasn't optimized. It was really, really good. Boss and Ace would take 2 years to tie it, Clemens would join them in 2009, and then it would be until 2014 before more names piled onto the record. That's nearly a decade where only 4 absolute legends achieved the time. But as general skill improved and the mass of everything became even more optimized, both Ace and Carl were having 22-second pace runs. While still needing the same immense luck as Wouter, it's just much easier to grind endlessly now that we're able to stream and turn it into somewhat of a social event. And on January 31st, Carl Jobst completed a Frigate Agent 22, eliminating the last vestige of a Wouter Jansen Untied from the GoldenEye World Rankings, and truly marking the end of an era. Like any competitor, Wouter had a few close calls that could have changed a lot. His Bunker 1 Agent 17, set in 2003, was considered optimized for many years, but Carl beat that one as well. Wouter nearly achieved Cradle 00 Agent 33 last fall when the newest strategy was discovered, and that would have been the coolest thing ever, but it just wasn't quite meant to be. Since 2006, Wouter has achieved 18 more GoldenEye personal records, some of them world record ties, like Surface 2 Agent 48 or Caverns Agent 102, though these have since been beaten too. The only smidgen of a world record tie that Wouter still holds, even though he didn't originally set it, is Runway Agent 22, a record he shares with 124 others. And you've likely heard my analysis before that while 21 isn't quite possible yet, it probably will be someday. And Wouter's entire history of hundreds of world records will be completely gone from the ongoing world rankings. But while the records he set have waned and disappeared, Wouter's influence and legacy of having been the first true master of the game, the first one to really know what it is to search for optimized speedrun records, the guy who achieved more world records than anyone else in the game's history, will all last eternally, echoing through the halls of GoldenEye 00 speedrunning forever. This one's for you, Wouter. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit about the remarkable career of speedrun legend Wouter Jansen. In the meantime, stay true, my friends, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.